Those of you who have been paying attention probably know that Donald Trump is in some legal trouble. There are a few trials that he's got going. He was been arrested about 4 times, and 2 of those trials have to do with things that he did while he was in office. Namely, the January 6th and the fake elector scheme and things related to that. In connection with that particular court case, Donald Trump's lawyers have basically just been on an attempt to run out the clock. That's what's going on right now. Basically, he's just putting all of these bullshit appeals in order to run out the clock so that they can't actually start any of the trials before the election, because Donald Trump's strategy is to become president and then pardon himself. And it looks like the Supreme Court is going to help him do that. So one of the objections, this was to the phony baloney elector case, right, which was in connection with January 6th, is that he appealed basically saying, hey, I was president at the time and presidents have immunity. And of course, all of the lower courts immediately threw that out because it's ridiculous on its face. And there was a pretty famous sort of news story that went around a few weeks back as this was being argued, where one of the lawyers went in front of the judge and said, and the judge was asking, well, what if Trump got SEAL Team 6 and used it to assassinate somebody? And one of Trump's lawyers was like, well, he would be impeached for that. And the idea of what Trump's lawyers are trying to say is that the way that presidents are held accountable through the law is by impeachment, which is not true. Not true at all. But basically his lawyer was saying that, well, he would have to be impeached and convicted, and then he could go to jail. Which is bullshit, because that's not what the Constitution says. See, impeachment and conviction is not a legal punishment. It's a political process. And what that's there for is to remove a president from office. That's what impeachment is for. Impeachment and conviction is to remove the president from office. The president just does not then go on to prison for whatever. No. He just gets removed from office. And according to Trump's lawyers, they're saying, well, he can't be held accountable for any crimes they committed while they were president without being impeached first, which is bullshit. Impeached and convicted, which is complete and total fucking bullshit. But that's what they're going with. They're going with that in order to run out the clock, because they don't want the trial to start before the election, because they're banking on winning the election. And frankly, it kind of looks like they're going to win the election too, if Joe Biden doesn't get his shit together. But that's a subject for another time. And, of course, the Supreme Court is now going along with it. So the Supreme Court has decided they're going to hear this case. Now, which you would think that on its face, it's ridiculous. And what the Supreme Court should have done was just refuse to hear it. But no, they decided they're going to hear it, and they decided they're going to hear it in April, the end of April. Which, of course, adds another 2 months onto the clock, which means that this trial will not get going until July at some point. And then Donald Trump and his team of lawyers may even delay it even further. And that's why people are kind of pissed off at the Supreme Court now, because it is ridiculous. The notion that a president is immune while for anything they do as president is ridiculous on its face. It wasn't like that for any other president throughout history. It wasn't like that for Nixon. No, especially when it comes to the types of arguments they were making. I mean, remember what Donald Trump is accused of doing. He's accused of essentially trying to commit a coup d'etat in order to stay in power. That's what this trial is about here. It's not just about January 6th and the riot. It's about the phony elector scheme, which is basically amounts to a coup d'etat. And I'm not going to go over the actual crime, because we've talked about that more than enough in my previous videos. But just the very notion in and of itself. I mean, just think about that, right? Think about what that would mean. That would mean, if this is what they're going with, That would mean right now that Joe Biden, as the current president, could basically do whatever he wants, and nobody could do shit about it because the Senate will not convict him from an impeachment. So he could, as the Trump lawyers argued for, order SEAL Team 6 to go assassinate Donald Trump. And then if the Senate, which is run by Democrats, decides not to convict him, he gets away with it scot-free. The entire notion is ridiculous on its face, but that's what's being argued here. People are pissed at the Supreme Court here, and I want to show you guys a couple of reactions from people. Let's go ahead and turn on my laptop. This here is LA Blue Dot in Georgia. John Roberts, we do not have Obama judges or Trump judges, Bush judges or Clinton judges. That independent judiciary is something we should all be thankful for. If Trump shoots someone on Fifth Avenue, the Supreme Court will make sure he isn't held accountable for that either. Which is true. The reason they did this was so that Donald Trump can run out the clock. Because, remember, 3 of the 9 sitting judges on the Supreme Court were appointed by Donald Trump. He has the Supreme Court in his pocket. And by doing this, they're showing that they're loyal to him. I don't even know who this person is. Mayra, I don't know, just some rando. This Supreme Court is bought and paid for. They should recuse themselves from any of Trump's trials. I've seen this reposted at least 50 times in the last day or so. People are pissed. People are definitely pissed at the Supreme Court. Payesh Mittal. The Supreme Court isn't even pretending to be unbiased as they pull out all the stops to protect Trump. Getting a lot of these. This is from Jedi Master Mark Hamill himself. You don't need a corrupt Supreme Court. Ruling to no absolute immunity would make a president a king/dictator. Now it's up to us to channel our rage, disgust, and disappointment to achieve record turnout and make sure we win by far larger margin than last time. Well, I hope so. I hope people get their shit together and go out and decide to vote. I hope this pisses people off enough. Because right now, polls ain't looking good for Joe Biden. And, you know, here's a few of them. This is from somebody named Shut Up Man. Can I get a fuck the Supreme Court? I think I'm gonna reply, type that in. Fuck the Supreme Court. Right on. One more here, which I thought was interesting. Lindy Lee, no idea who this is either. Just some rando person. 24 years ago, Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and John Roberts were all on the legal team that helped Bush steal the presidency from Al Gore. 24 years later, all 3 are now on the Supreme Court that's helping to steal the presidency from the American people. Crooks will always be crooks. I find that very interesting. I didn't know that myself. I knew Amy Coney Barrett was on that legal team. I didn't know that John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh were also on that legal team. That's a disturbing fucking thought, isn't it? Those are the people that got Bush into the presidency. Somehow, I don't think they're going to rule in favor of the Democrat. That kind of displayed, that to me already kind of says, okay, these people don't have integrity. These 3 people are definitely in Trump's pocket. I don't know, man. Not looking good for the future of our country here, I must say. Of course, the chuds are lying about this as usual. Here's one that I found here. This is Whoopi Goldberg on The View. We don't really need to listen to what she says, but according to Breaking 911, Goldberg, you know what Joe Biden could do since he's presently president? He could throw every Republican in jail. And you know something? That's true. If what Trump's lawyers are saying, if what they're defending is what the Supreme Court goes with, then that means Joe Biden could throw every single one of the Republicans in jail and nobody could do shit to him unless he gets impeached and convicted first. But he won't be because the Senate is run by Democrats and they won't impeach him. They won't convict him. So he could do whatever the fuck he wanted. Isn't that true? Isn't that what they're arguing for? Doesn't that mean that he could throw them all in jail? Couldn't he assassinate Marjorie Taylor Greene if he wanted to? Couldn't he go out and take Louis Gohmert and order his family killed or something like that? Couldn't he take Matt Gaetz and throw him in fucking Guantanamo Bay for like no trial, no charge, no nothing? Just disappear his ass? Who's gonna stop him? Well, he's not gonna get convicted, so he is completely immune from prosecution. That is the argument that the Trump lawyers are making. And it's obvious how ridiculous and idiotic that is. But unfortunately, people don't see it that way. Here's one of the responses to this. Somebody who took that completely the wrong way, yet she will call you a fascist. You see that, folks? You see how that just gets completely twisted around? That was Whoopi Goldberg basically saying, hey, look how ridiculous this is. This is wrong. And this asshole, I don't know if this guy chose to misunderstand that. I don't know if this guy read it out of context. Something tells me that somebody just told him this. And he probably didn't even watch the video of Whoopi saying it. He just read that tweet and has basically like chosen to misunderstand it. Because I don't see how anybody could misunderstand what she was getting at there unless they were doing it on purpose. Unless they were willfully and deliberately misrepresenting what she said to make it sound like she was in support of Joe Biden actually doing that. Because here's the thing, right? This isn't the only person that actually has chosen to take that completely out of context. I saw that same reaction as this fucking little toad here. I saw that same reaction on Facebook, on Reddit. It just boggles the mind how ready, willing, and able these people are to lie about anything in order to make themselves look good, I guess. Absolutely fucking ridiculous there. Let's turn this shit off. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I wanted to talk about it and just kind of show you the outrage it's causing and think about what it actually really means. What does this really mean? It means that Trump is not going to jail. Okay. He will not. He has the Supreme Court in his pocket. Any of these decisions get appealed to the Supreme Court, they get thrown out. That can happen in all of them, I think. In all of these. I mean, I know that the Supreme Court usually does not take up criminal trials. But they've shown right here that they are willing to basically bend over backwards in order to help Trump and his lawyers. So anything he does to run out that clock, any stupid ass appeal, ridiculous, stupid fucking appeal that he comes up with in order to add a few more weeks to those trial dates to push him back ever closer past the election, they're going to go with it. He's not going to jail, folks. I want him to go to jail. Don't get me wrong. I want him to go to jail with everything I got. If I had a magic lamp right now, that would be one of my 3 wishes. I'd wish for $1 million, the ability to fly like Superman, and that Donald Trump goes to jail. Those would be my 3 fucking wishes. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, okay? He's going to get off. You know, the documents case, espionage is what they should call it. But yeah, the documents case where he just like went home with top secret documents and didn't give them back and didn't cooperate. He has the judge in his pocket on that one with Judge whatever the fuck her name is, Eileen Cannon. She's basically doing anything that she fucking can to like help Donald Trump in that case. So you think she's going to rule against him? Think she's going to put him in jail? Fuck no, she's not. He's getting away with that one. This one here, the fake elector thing, is probably not going to happen now until after the election. And, you know, here's the thing with the other cases. You know, there's another one in New York with the Stormy Daniels fucking hush money, which is really more about, that's really about falsifying records, business records. Because he's too cheap to pay for this shit himself, so he, like, used his business to pay for it and then falsified records about it. He should be in prison for that shit. All it takes, in any of these other ones, like there's that one and then there's the Georgia case, right? Those are the 4 cases. All it's going to take is one person on one of these juries to be a secret Trump sycophant, to vote no and get a hung jury, and then that's it. And then he walks. That's it, because you need to have a unanimous jury in order to convict. All it's going to take is one. All it's going to take is one guy getting on one of these juries and then lying about, because they're going to try to screen him and say, do you have any bias towards or against, right? They're going to try to screen him. And all it's going to take is one guy lying and saying, no, I don't have any biases. And then he's really on there as a secret fucking Trump fucking Kool-Aid drinker. And that's all it takes for him to walk. And that's what's going to happen. So if you are betting, if you're putting this up as like the fact that Donald Trump should be in jail as the reason why it's not important to vote this fall in order to defeat fascism, that's not going to happen. The only way we're going to stop this asshole is to defeat him at the polls in November. For the love of God, don't let this man become president again. Okay, can you imagine? We saw what happened with Trump as president for 4 years and how fucked up the country got. How shitty everything was. There were riots in the fucking streets over Donald Trump. 1 million people fucking died in this country because of his response to a pandemic, for fuck's sake. All right, we've seen what Donald Trump brings to the table, and it's not very much. Do you have any idea what could happen again if he is allowed to become president again? I mean, let alone the fact that he's gonna do everything he can to turn this country into his own private piggy bank with him as a permanent dictator. Why do you think the guy hangs out with fucking Putin so much, right? Why do you think Donald Trump hung out with Putin and with fucking Kim Jong-il and Viktor Orban and all of these other Tim Pot little dictator assholes this whole time? The whole time he was president, why was he sucking up to these cretins, right? Because he wants to be just like them. The man loves authoritarians because he is an authoritarian and he wants to become an authoritarian and he wants to turn the United States into his own personal property. That's the entire reason why he became president in the first place. To personally enrich himself. And he'll do it if we allow him. He needs to be stopped at the polls in November. For God's sake, vote. Get everybody you fucking know to vote. Go out and help people to register to vote. And let's stop this son of a bitch before it's too late. This is it for democracy. If you care about this country at all in the slightest, for the love of fucking God, please vote.
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.